Hello. I just wanted to do a quick video showing the arcade, the Bartop Arcade that I put together. I probably finished it maybe a few weeks ago. Maybe answer some questions if anyone was interested in building one. This one cost me out of pocket probably less than $200. Mainly because I had I had a lot of spare parts like the monitor, things like that. I ended up grabbing a lot of the spare parts on eBay, like the buttons and the joysticks, things like that. They're not, I wouldn't label anything at all in this project high quality. My goal was to make something fast and cheap. And I think under $200 for something like this is a pretty good deal. I mean, I see these all the time on Craigslist and eBay for $1,200, $1,000. So anyway, this is the machine. It's based on a Raspberry Pi 2. To make it easy to get these controllers to work, I used a thing called a mini pack, which is a keyboard encoder. So it just goes USB right into the Raspberry Pi, so I didn't have to mess with any of the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi. When I was reading through that, it didn't seem too hard, but it didn't seem too hard, but it didn't seem like it was as easy as I wanted it to be, which the mini pack made it drop dead easy. I mean, it really was nothing. I mean, it was as easy as plugging in a USB cable. So anyway, well, I'll show you this real quick, but I did want to show you some of the pictures of the construction. So here's a computer of some pictures I had. These are the rough cutouts. I'm not a woodworking guy, so I didn't want to cut my hands off trying to make something like this. So I went on eBay and found a lot of different guys that just sell the cutouts. And it was, I think, $70 or $80 for all the cutouts I needed. You can see this picture. This is the basic cutout. I had to use a Dremel with the sandpaper to basically clean up the edges. So basically, it's just plywood. It's just standard 3/4 inch plywood. Again, I bought it on eBay. I didn't go and get the wood. I'm sure if you're handy with wood, you can, and have all the right saws or whatever, you could do this pretty easily. I don't have any of that around. I don't want my kids to cut their hands off. I don't want to cut my hands off, so I just went and got the pieces on eBay. But anyway, that's me painting it. The color safety blue. It's just spray paint I got at the hardware store. Here's where I began to screw the actual pieces together. Uh-oh, lost the screen touch there. So there's the back side. It really went, so once I got all the pieces in, it really took me about a weekend to put together. Roughly, I mean, I've been adding little pieces here and there for the last month, but the core system, which I'll show you in the end here, there's some interesting pictures coming up here. Let me grab those. Let me see here. Actually, I just grabbed the pieces, the wooden pieces off of eBay, Ben, and I figured out the rest. There were no plans of any sort. I got the wood cutouts on eBay and put that together. So there's the inside. You can see all I did was mount speakers in the back there. That's the beginning. I put a power strip in there. The switch for the power strip pokes out the little hole in the back. So there's a nice little on-off switch. I was testing the control panel there. This control panel right here, it magnetically fits inside so that I can remove it, so that I can get into the inside of it to do maintenance. You know, take the SD card out of the Raspberry Pi, do whatever. I did add this screw on each side just to make sure it didn't pop up. I had a friend come over and play, and he was a little more ham-fisted than I was, I guess you could say. And he got a little aggro on there, so he started to... It did start to pop up a little bit. It never came off completely, but I will tell you the wiring in this is... It's a mess under there. So if this control panel were to pop loose and those wires came loose, it's a hassle to actually try to put together. Exactly, Chris. I mean, people. I'm pretty gentle when I play the games, but some people get pretty aggro with it and can rip the whole control panel off. So I basically put that in magnetically, and then I added these 2 little screws on each side just so that people don't pop it off. I used wood screws. I don't even remember the dimensions on them. They were, God, I could go look them up. I want to say they were 1/2-inch wood screws. I'd have to look that up. They're not perfect. I mean, they're in there. I covered some up with the decals, which I'll tell you how I did later. I thought that was a pretty cheap way to do it. But anyway. Yeah, exactly. Robotron 2084 is one of my favorites. So this is the back of the joystick panel. Actually, that's a more interesting picture right there. So that's where I mounted the Raspberry Pi and the mini pack encoder. I ended up moving them around a little bit. The mini pack encoder you see right there, I actually moved closer to the edge because the harness that they sell with the mini pack is the leads are not that long, and you can buy extensions or make extensions with a wire, but I didn't want to hassle with that. Like I said, I was trying to get out of this project as cheaply and as easily as I could. So I ended up just not mounting the mini pack there. I just moved it down closer to the buttons where the control panel right here was going to sit on top. Then I mounted the monitor. It's basically you just mount it to a piece of wood. I found an old VESA arm that attaches to a desk, and I took it apart and saved this little star piece that mounts to the wood. You could just mount the monitor straight to the wood, which I think is what a lot of people do. There's the back of the control panel, which you can see. That's why I don't like to remove it very often, is that some of those fast connectors are very fragile. They'll just break right off. I had a couple break off, which I had to use just grab my soldering iron and put it back together. But there's a lot of wires that connect everything in here, and that's the mini pack wiring harness. There's not a lot of play there underneath, so that's why I mounted that in a different location. But anyway, this is one where it gets closer to completion. I mounted that magnetically inside, hooked everything up. That was my first test. I got in the garage. I had a 17-inch Dell monitor and a 19-inch, and the guy who sold me the wooden cutouts for the arcade said that usually people mount 17-inch monitors inside this cabinet, but I grabbed the 19-inch one I had, and it fit. I had to remove the marquee, which, as you know, in these arcade systems, there's a marquee on the top here where the speakers sit. I decided to change that around a little bit by removing the marquee entirely and mounting the speakers on the inside. Actually, you know what? To be honest, when you buy something like the mini pack encoder, it makes it a lot easier to build this. I mean, like I said, so let me show you this. There's a picture coming up here. By the end of the weekend, that's where I was. You see that the bezel isn't on there, like the bezel that I made around the monitor, and this fast cap edging wasn't on. But it was in this state at the end of the weekend where I could actually play a game. Now, Now remember, I didn't solder those wires at all. They were just fast connectors. They just plug into the micro switches. They just literally slide onto them. So there's no soldering in that wiring. It looks a lot more complicated than it is, but there's a schematic in here. See that piece of paper right there? It's a real easy schematic to follow. Yeah, exactly the interface, so there's a full size mini pack called, I think it's called the iPack, and it can control 4 players and all that. And the mini pack can too, but the mini pack just simplifies everything. There's not a lot of ways you can go wrong. I mean, I had almost complete controls up and working with the mini iPack on boot. I mean, I didn't have to configure anything other than in RetroPie, I had to configure the way to navigate the menus, like going up and down here and getting buttons to control page up and page down. But it worked out of the box. Now, like on 2-player Street Fighter style games, button 5 and 6 didn't work out of the box, but it was as easy as going into the game's controls, which I can show you in a minute, and it was just drop dead easy to actually add that functionality in there. It wasn't hard at all. So don't be scared of the technology stuff behind it. I know there are a lot of people out there much better at this than I am, but the mini iPack, I had done my research and it made it drop dead easy to take care of that. Other than that, I mean, it's as simple as you see here. Oh, that's my Scrabble game. I was playing with my wife. I believe I lost that game. Anyhow, so you can see Bubble Bobble was up. You can see the Ethernet cable in there. That's how I was uploading the ROMs. Since then, on the Raspberry Pi inside, I've added a Wi-Fi card so that I can telnet into it to drop ROMs or... I gotta tell you, George, it really wasn't that hard. I did run into some issues, and I'm gonna try to set up. I got this microphone stand to try to hold the phone while I get on there to show you some things. But there's still some lingering issues which I haven't worked out because I'm not a Linux expert. So the Raspberry Pi, like my sound works great. So the sound works, and it works great, but it doesn't on the first boot. So I always have to reboot this twice. I boot it up, and then I reboot it again. And that works real well. But I don't know why it does that. So anyway, I'm trying to adjust this so that you can see that on there. Let's hope my phone doesn't fall. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. So anyway... Let me see where my hands are there. Yeah, that's good. So when I'm in the menu here, let me back out. So it starts, I removed all the other emulators. I want this to be an arcade emulation machine. So there were a ton of different emulators that you could scroll through here. I only wanted one. So I picked MAME for All, which has a very easy interface to configure arcade controls or whatever. I also have I've got a cheap $20 wireless keyboard and mouse, which I can use to change the metadata on the games or whatever. But anyway, let me, I can't see you guys type anything, but I'll show you what I have here. So this just goes into the menu. You can scroll through the menu here. If you hit the middle button here, which is the quarter button, this is the coin insert button, you can get to a thing where you can go through the alphabet faster to get through games. Page up, page down to get through here. Now, I downloaded a pack of ROMs off of the internet, and some of these are labeled wrong, and you can see that there's multiple entries, like different versions, Japanese versions, North America. I need to get in here and really clean up this, but I haven't really had time. But anyway, then you just hit this red button, jumps right in there. Boots up just like an arcade system. once you're in here, if you hold this button down, this is like a shift button. So this button's like a shift button, and then you press up, and it takes you into the main control. Oops, I mean right, actually. It takes you in the main controls, and you just go in here. Let me hold on a second. So let me pause it just for a sec so that I can. By the way, holding this down and pushing down is pause. One thing I want to tell you is I lost my train of thought here. I was going to tell you something about the way this is set up. To control for any of the controls, you just hold that down. You go right. You pick input for this game. And then you need your keyboard, and then you just hit enter on that, and it takes you to a menu. Hold on a second. At least it did. Oh, my keyboard wasn't on. There we go. So you go in, you can see all this, and what the mini pack does for you is that it's just a keyboard encoder. There's no special controls that are mapped to buttons or joystick things. They're just keyboard entries. And so you just pick what you want to change. Like if up and down wasn't working, you just go there, you hit enter. I don't want to change this one, but you hit enter on it, and then you hit enter again, and that's all there is to it. Really easy, but I'll tell you that out of the box, the mini pack is configured for MAME. So everything pretty much works when you plug it in. There's not much else to do. So it just makes it super easy. So there's not much else to do. You plug it in, and then I found a couple little buttons here and there in certain games, like the game Robotron 2084. It's a dual joystick game. You know, you fire in one direction, also Smash TV. I just basically had to go in there and map the second player joystick to map to basically gunning, like in Robotron 2084 or Smash TV or whatever, and it worked like a charm. I mean, it really is very easy to do. So anyway, let me unpause this. This is one of my favorites that I've been playing lately, called Time Pilot 84. You can see the sounds really good. Ooh. And then the way to just get back to the menu is you press both these buttons at the same time. That takes you right back to the menu. And then you can just pick a letter to go into another game. I like Snow Bros is a good one. This is the quarter button, pop quarters in there. I don't know if you guys remember Snow Bros, but this was pretty big on the SNES. So that's that. All right, I'm in front of this again in case you guys had any questions. Again, I got this cheap. This is just a cheap wireless one that actually worked well with the Raspberry Pi. The nice thing is that it has a trackpad, so I didn't have to plug in a mouse too, which I thought was worth its weight in gold. Oh yeah, that's a good question, George. So Ben, yeah, maybe, I don't know. To be honest, there are much better ones than I could do. Paul, it's a Raspberry Pi 2. The only other Raspberry Pi I have is I have one mounted underneath this desk, if you can see that. And it just serves, all it does is serve the Commodore for doing TCP search so I can dial into BBSs. It's a glorified Raspberry Pi modem. So that's the only Raspberry Pi 1 I have. This one's a 2 for that. And actually, I'm working on another project now where I'm going to shove a Raspberry Pi 2 inside of a fight stick, a one-player fight stick, and I'm going to send it to my brother-in-law, hoping they get some enjoyment out of it. But it's going to be based on the very same system, RetroPie with MAME, same ROMs and everything, but I'm going to try to get it all shoved into a fight stick. And in the back of the fight stick, I'll just have HDMI coming out that'll just plug into any TV and hopefully just work. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, George, I think you asked how do you get out to the command line. You hit this button. That was a single player, and it gives you this menu. I don't know if you can see that. The lighting's kind of bad there. And you just go to quit. And then you can quit emulation station. That'll take you right into the Raspberry Pi. You can shut down the system. You can restart it. But I always just use this PC to putty into it so that it can just keep running the way it is, and I don't have to use anything else. I can just putty, just do an SSH connection right into it. But if you hit quit here, it should go right into just the Raspberry Pi setup. Maybe. Yeah, I bet I could. I bet there's some kind of filter for doing that. There we go. So I just need to hit Control-C. There we go. So now I'm at the RetroPie, Raspberry Pi prompt there, and I can do any kind of, I guess I need to sudo that. Sudo shutdown, switch R now. So I can just issue commands, and that's did I type that wrong? Oh, it should be sudo there, huh? That's what I get for trying to type with one hand. Whoops, switch R now. And that should reboot it. So, like I said, and then this bezel is new that I added around the monitor. I just wanted to clean it up a little bit so it looked more arcade style. And believe it or not, I built that out of balsa wood, like that you used to build model airplanes when you were a kid. Spray painted the balsa wood, and I used, right now it's still using double-sided tape to hold that in there, but I plan on adding hot glue or something to that later. I'm pretty lazy, so I'll probably just change it out when it fails. Another thing is most people put T-molding on the edge here, and I don't know if Chris is still in here, but he did tell me that I could come over to his house to use his router and T-molding, and for my next project, maybe I'll try to do something like that. But for me, I didn't want to have to take it back apart and route edges, so I found this stuff called fast cap edge banding, and it's just adhesive that is made out of PVC and sticks to the 3/4 inch edge. You can see I put it all over. And it worked out real well. It did come up in the curves a little bit, so I just put some super glue in there and made it stick and worked fine. Yeah, I thought it did look pretty good. So like a little bit of the adhesive would come out of the edge here, so when I was playing I could feel the stickiness on my hands, but the funny thing is that I used some WD-40, sprayed it on there, wiped it off, and it pretty much ate up the adhesive. I think the edge banding actually gives it a little bit more professional kind of, and it was cheap. I mean, it was like $18 for a roll of 50 feet, which I'll never use in my lifetime. So, another thing is I wanted to just kind of, make it look kind of neat with some decals. So I ended up buying this, let me see if I can find that. Here it is. I ended up buying this adhesive vinyl, and it just comes in sheets, and you can't use it on a laser printer, but you put it into your inkjet printer on the highest quality, and it's just basically big sheets of sticker paper. So I printed out all these Bubble Bobble stickers, which I just downloaded on the internet. All these stickers, and then just kind of painstakingly cut them out, which really wasn't that hard, and stuck them on. Again, I didn't use any plans or anything other than once I got the shell, I do need a dub project, especially since I've got about 4 different arcade projects in my mind that I want to work on. The funny thing is, that ZX Spectrum Vega that's out. I got to thinking, why not just kind of build your own? I mean, all it is a box with a couple buttons on it. So I thought about taking like a fight stick and just running the same emulator, the same RetroPie has a ZX Spectrum emulator. Could just really cram it all into a fight stick with a few buttons sticking out of it and make your own Vega for probably less than the Vega. The Vega seemed really expensive to me. I don't know if you guys have seen that ZX Spectrum Vega, but it'd be neat to have, but you really could make one out of a fight stick and a Raspberry Pi pretty easily. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. But so anyway, that's the arcade. Oh, by the way, few details. When you do this thing called, I think it's called scrapping, where you basically tell MAME to go find all the art, like all this art and information about games, and it goes and grabs it. And it took about a day and a half over my, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, I imagine that I haven't used the ZX Spectrum emulator in there, but I just thought you could make a pretty neat Commodore one or ZX Spectrum one just by using this exact same setup, but just ram it into a fight stick, which is my next project. But I'm just going to do MAME just like this one, and it hopefully will just work. But anyhow, the scrapping, that's what I was talking about. When I went and did the scrapping, there were a lot of errors in that scrapping. So it takes a lot of, you can edit each one of these. So like if you go into 1942, you can go, I hit the middle button here, my quarter button, and it takes me to this options menu. I can go into metadata, and you can change the name of the ROM. You can change all this information, and then when you're done, you just save it. It's painstaking, but I've got 2,000 ROMs on here right now. A lot of them are duplicates, and a lot of them are just plain wrong. The scrapping process did not. All it does is output the information into an XML file. I've edited like 6 or 7, and it takes a long time to go through there. I was lazy and just grabbed a big giant ROM pack, which I should probably have been a little more selective with the games I want in there. And I could just putty in there and delete everything and start from scratch with a few games. And I think that's ultimately what I'm going to do is I'll look through here and like games like, that I don't want in here. All those are pretty good, but 64th Street, A Detective. I mean, I don't know what that is. I'm probably never going to play it. I should just go in there and prune those out, which, I'll do someday. But for now, it's nice to find the games I want to find, and they're all in there. I mean, this pack I got has everything, and the kids love it. So, and it's been fun watching my kids play it. I mean, they're getting into all the old games. My daughter's playing Miss Pac-Man. My son's playing Smash TV and Time Pilot, and my wife and I play Bubble Bobble. It's a fun machine to have. Doesn't take up a ton of room. So worked out pretty well. Anyhow, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I got to get back to work, but thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Oh yeah, for the components. The components, yeah. I mean, I could list them. I got everything on. So I got the Raspberry Pi 2. I got the mini pack. I'll list this out though later. I'm probably going to post this video on YouTube, but it's really what you saw: Raspberry Pi 2, mini pack, a monitor, and then I got a big collection of the joysticks, which are HAP joysticks, and the buttons with their micro switches. I got that in a deal on eBay for, I think it was around, I want to say 50 or 60 bucks. And it included everything: the joysticks, the micro switches, the buttons. Thanks. All that. I got it all on eBay, and they're not the highest quality components. The HAP joysticks, they're okay. In games like Street Fighter, they're not, you know, they're 8 directional. They're 4 or 8 depending on how you mount them. And there's a little kind of actuator thing in there that flips. One side is 8 direction, one side is 4 direction. I put it in 8. But they're not the most sensitive joysticks in the world. They're fine for the games that I'm playing on here. But you know, if you're a competition Street Fighter guy, you're probably not going to love them. But these kind of sets are on eBay all over the place, and they're cheap. You can buy full sets. This one had 16 buttons, so I have 2 spares, I think, 2 joysticks, all the micro switches to use them all. So pretty cheap, and that's really all the components there are. I mean, the monitor I had in the garage. Yeah, that's what I need, Chris. I mean, if I build another system, it's going to have higher end joysticks. These buttons are fine, but I'd love to have a joystick that's a little more sensitive, and I could flip between 4 and 8 direction. The 4 direction joysticks are obviously great for the old school games like Pac-Man and Popeye, the games that you're not doing diagonals. Yeah, I should do Robotron, although I had to reset this once, so I don't know if I've reprogrammed the. Yeah, I don't think I've reprogrammed the joysticks for that. I'll have to look. If I can remember my alphabet, that is. Got the good old sound. Yeah, so I can tell this ROM has been reset because now I think I need to reset it one more time once the ROM runs first. So I'm going to go hands-free here for a sec. All right, let me see if I can make this work here. I know this ROM works because I had it working the other day. I did a reset when I downloaded all the new art and the new menuing system. So let me see about the controls here. Yep, see the controls are not working, so this might be a good time to show you how to do that. So you go into here, input for this game. So for the left up down, I'm just going to select that, pick up. That one go down. This one left. This one right. And then for this, I'm going to use the other controller for the right. This is going to go up, down, left, right. And I think that's it. So now I return to the game. Okay, let's check this out. See if that works. Oh yeah. See how easy that was in changing in the menu? And it saves it. not good. Anyway, so that's all working now. Yeah, you know, I didn't try. I may not have even tried to. That's a good point. I think I got them all because I play Street Fighter and I think they're both 8-way. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for tuning in. I've had a lot of people online ask me about it, and listen, if I can build this, anybody can. As Chris can tell you, I'm not in any way good with stuff like this. So I just getting the wood parts in and basically just piecing it together and figuring it out really wasn't tough. So I hope it encourages a lot more people to actually do it. So let me see if I want to see if that. Yeah, see? I just wasn't shooting in that direction, Chris. Yep, so let me turn that on. But anyhow, I'm going to wrap this up and get back to work. Thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you soon. That is if I could. This is my first time doing a Periscope, so now I got to figure out how to do this. There we go. Talk to you guys later.